by step the longest march can be won, can be won.
Basically, the Federation movement, which I am part of here, has sort of grown old. It's forgotten that the driving force of any organization like this has to be change. It can't be just sustaining the status quo, because the status quo doesn't work well for us. But the future is filled with opportunity, and I think that the organizing methodology holds out enormous hope. There's so many opportunities for organizing to transform Jewish education, to transform social action and social justice, to transform the way congregations care about each other. Every part of this is an opportunity, and unless we transform all of those things, the Jewish community will not have as bright a future as it could otherwise have. So we need to listen to you, and we need to work together, because there's never been a moment of greater opportunity than right now for the future of the Jewish community, and the fact that you folks are interested in it is the best sign of all.
Just after my 22nd birthday, I realized that I was hopelessly dependent on my parents. Not for money, and not even for the car. I was desperately dependent on my parents for my Jewishness. See, in college, I would ride the train home for Yom Kippur services, looking out the window, feeling like I was almost going to cry. And not because I was reflecting on my sins of the past year, but because it was the only time I felt a sense of Jewish community. As graduation neared, I finally invited some activist Jewish friends over, and we had a weekly Shabbat services, and we tentatively sing the opening prayers together. But what then? Conversation often faltered, and pretty soon I was back to my lonely train rides. I came to JOI still fresh off this well-intentioned yet really awkward Jewish experience. But at JOI, I found a community where we grappled with these ideas of Jewish ritual and secular thought, and we even had to lead a workshop or a service every week. When my birthday approached this year, I woke up thinking, "Oi, now I'm woefully dependent on JOI for my Jewishness." The one thing I hadn't grappled with was what I was willing to contribute to sustain something I cared so deeply about. But encouraged by my fellows, I decided to co-plan a Passover Seder. We studied 6 different Haggadahs, we cut, we pasted, we negotiated, and in the end we created something that felt right. I was nervous all day, but the Seder came off beautifully. It was almost like a second bar mitzvah. I'd already supposedly become an adult in my first Jewish community, but having left it, I was just now learning how to become a leader in a new one.
On my first day at my JOI placement, a coalition of labor unions, my supervisor sat me down and asked me a lot about myself and told me about the organization. And just as I was feeling optimistic and ready to jump in, he said, "You know, this is a war, and we're losing." And all of a sudden, I felt disconnected. I hadn't known a lot of union members growing up, and I didn't feel part of that war. I didn't feel part of the we who was fighting it. So I tried to find my place in the we. I asked our members about their unions and would hear, "We're working for a better contract, but the company isn't budging on health care, and things are really tough right now." And I felt sympathetic, but I didn't feel deeply connected. And I tried to learn about labor history. I joined this book group with women from the Labor Council. I got to know Margie, who welcomed me into her home. Margie is an occupational therapist, and she told me how the school she worked at had transferred her away from the students she had worked with for years and years. And I got to know Alex, who makes a mean salad dressing. Alex works at the GE factory, and she told me how the next contract would take away her affordable health care. One night, as we were all discussing a book about the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, someone got a text that said the Wisconsin governor had signed the bill which would eliminate collective bargaining for all public employees. For the next 2 weeks, I couldn't be pulled away from the news from Wisconsin, because in the photos of the protests, I recognized the signs. They were the signs from Margie's union, from Alex's, from Raphael's and Julie's, and I recognized the people on the streets of Madison. They were just like the people I knew on the North Shore. They were people I cared deeply about, and they were up against a really tough fight. And as I watched the streets fill with thousands and then tens of thousands of people, I started to cry. Because I not only felt part of that war, but I could just imagine what it might look like to win it.
So the question faces us now. How big is our dream of the world as it should be? And are we courageous enough to try? That's our question. What do you think? Are we?
Yeah. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none, singly none.